Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video from Aman Talks, NRL SuperCoach, here for the round 16 final updated thoughts and on my team, potential trades, and also the ramifications post Origin Game 2 in terms of which players may or may not back up. I'm recording this at Friday about 12:30. We've actually gotten some news really in the last kind of 5-10 minutes as well on some very relevant SuperCoach players, so plenty to get into. To start off the video, just wanted to quickly go through the Origin players who may be likely to back up and others who may be still in a bit of doubt. So we'll just go through the Queensland and the New South Wales teams, just 1 to 17, just to make sure we don't miss out on anyone. Kalen Ponga is suspected to back up. Their game is in Perth, so the Knights fullback should be backing up, although he's not very relevant for SuperCoach as it currently stands. Xavier Coates is still not 100% clear. He didn't back up game 1. At the moment, it feels like the Storm are still looking to back up all of their Origin players. But again, Coates not someone, I guess, overly SuperCoach relevant. But if you own, see if you can hold out. And that it's just general advice for this week as well. Just set your team up so that guys who are playing early in the round, get them into your starting lineup, and then get your players playing at the end of the round in the reserves. That way you just keep your team much more flexible, because you're just going to need to rely on the updated team lists and also the team cutoffs that happen 24 hours prior to the actual game as well. Rob Toyer, I suspect with the Roosters playing Sunday 4 p.m, he should probably be backing up. Val Holmes is on the bye. Hamiso, his game is also in Perth, so no travel required. He's probably going to be backing up. Cam Munster basically confirmed on NRL 360 that he's looking to back up as well. That was a direct impact to my potential trade plans for this week. Although I'm a Munster owner, happy to see him backing up as well by the look of it. Tom Dearden and the Cowboys players, I do suspect all of them to back up. Mo Fodawaker and Tino, they were named on the bench for the Titans. Tino's obviously the much more SuperCoach relevant one there. We'll get to him when we talk about my potential trade plans. He's looking doubtful. When I say doubtful, my gut tells me, based on what I'm reading, he will play. It's just a question of, is he going to start or is he going to stay on the bench? And yeah, this uncertainty is making it very difficult at the moment to decide whether he's someone I want to hold on to or maybe he's a good candidate to sell. In terms of Origin, he made 9 runs, 58 meters. I think he played about 44 minutes. It's clearly getting affected by that sternum issue, which NRL Physio has said in the past for your middle forwards who've gotten sternum issues. It makes it very difficult for them to kind of create that impact and get that tackle busting ability, and just affects their things like post-contact meters as well. So Tino's up and down. We're not quite sure yet at this point in time. Harry Grant could be a candidate for rest, given that they've got Bronson Garlick, they've got Wishart who can play at hooker as well. But as I said, it feels as though Melbourne are looking to back up all of their Origin players. Ruben Cotter should play. Kurt Capel wasn't named for the Warriors, so he won't play. And then, Trent Leora, not probably that relevant for SuperCoach. Pat Carrigan has been cleared as good to go for the Broncos. He only played about 33 minutes on Wednesday. Looking quickly over to the New South Wales team now. So, of course, we already know about all of those Penrith Panthers players who weren't even named by Ivan Cleary. So they won't be backing up at all for this weekend. So that affects Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, and Liam Martin. So none of them will be playing this week. Stephen Crichton, his team's on the bye. Latrell, he was someone who I think, given the way that Rabbitohs have had some injuries in the last few weeks, or pretty much all season as well, haven't heard anything about him to suggest that he won't back up. He was named by the Rabbitohs, so my suspicion is that he will play. Similar for Lomax, he's got the very last game of the week, Sunday 6 p.m. against the Titans at home. Because of the because of the injury to Mitch Moses and also Dylan Brown being out, I think Parramatta are going to want to have all hands on deck. And so, I think someone like Zach Lomax is a good candidate to be playing. Jerome Luai, he looks like he'll actually be backing up from that very, very short turnaround. Apparently, he flew into Sydney Thursday evening, rest and recuperate, and then apparently he'll be playing today. So, it doesn't necessarily affect SuperCoach in terms of his ownership, but it's probably more what he'll do for the entire Tigers team and the fact that he's playing. Reece Robson, maybe reduced minutes for the Cowboys this week. Max King's on the bye. Payne Haas. Now, this is the big inclusion. So it looks as though that Payne Haas will back up for the Broncos. There was, obviously some talk about that. I think he had like a potential groin niggle heading into Origin 2, but the man's built different. It seems as though he's been cleared as good to go for the Broncos. Now, that probably means he'll play. That doesn't necessarily mean that he'll play his, big minutes like he normally does. But if you've already held on to Payne Haas, there's absolutely no need to move him on, especially if he is playing, as you can see on the screen. He's tied with Herbie Farnworth actually for top point scorer so far in SuperCoach. So if he's playing, you 100% just keep him. And Angus Crichton looks like he'll potentially back up as well, but maybe just gets minutes impacted. Connor Watson should also back up as well. It didn't play that many minutes for the Blues. Wasn't his best game. Same with Spencer Leniu and Stefano. Hudson Young, he is a popular trade, and as you can see on the screen here, he's the number 8 most traded in player of your coaches in the top 10%. Now, he looks like he's also probably going to back up. He doesn't necessarily have to. The Raiders have got lots of forward depth, but as it currently stands, he wasn't cut from the 24-hour teams. So my suspicion is that he will play tonight. He maybe doesn't play the full 80 minutes because he played about 45 minutes, I think, for the Blues. And it was in the middle as well. So he actually had probably bigger minutes than I was expecting. But he looks like he's ready to back up. He may just play maybe 60, 65 minutes. I think it's a bit of game state as well. If the Raiders are very up in that game, maybe he gets an early shower for the last kind of 15 to 20 minutes. So my guess is that he'll play and probably still gets, honestly, 60 minutes is my guess. But he still very easily could get 70 to 80 minutes depending on how that match is going. So if you're someone who is interested in Hudson Young, I do feel like it's a good matchup this week. He plays 17. He's one of those high upside point of difference players. I think he's like one of, if not the most highest averaging second row forward currently in SuperCoach as well. So you just do need to recognize that there is potentially a minutes restriction today. 17 is fine. He'll miss 18 and he will miss 19 as well. For those reasons is why I'm not looking at Hudson Young myself at the moment. But I can see the appeal, especially for those who are looking at maybe selling Olukwatu or also selling a Tino. So that's it on the Origin backups, and we'll touch on that a little bit more as well as we get onto my own team. But looking at the top trade ins and outs, I filtered it for coaches in the top 10% just because I thought that would be a little bit more relevant to, most of the people watching, I suspect, would be up there in the higher ranks, at least in the top 10%, I'd like to think. So number 1 trade in is Jerome Hughes. I suspect that most people doing this are doing Cleary to Hughes. You can see that is actually the second most popular trade amongst all coaches. Probably is what's creating Hughes to be the most traded in player amongst all coaches in the top 10%. So I think Hughes is a great trade, and Storm are one of the few teams who you can pick from this week, and they have no more buys for the rest of the year. So they'll cover 16, they'll cover 18, they'll cover 19. It's a very, very good matchup as well against the Bunnies. They've got the Cowboys, I believe, in round 19. So again, in that critical major buy round, it's a very, very good matchup. The Sharks is at home. We know the Sharks haven't been their best in the last few rounds. So I think Jerome Hughes could very feasibly become the number 2 halfback for the run home. And, I think for most of the season, everyone's kind of thought it would be Cleary Hines. Maybe it's Jerome Hughes. So I think selling Cleary to him, completely fine, because Cleary's confirmed not playing 16, 17 is against the Doggies, 18 is missing through Origin, and then he's every chance of also potentially missing round 19. Even more so as well, with the fact that Cleary also seemed to be struggling with I think it was either a groin or a right quad, which is what prevented him from goal kicking. And there's been some talk as well that he may potentially not goal kick just to give it a rest as well. And so that even means, I think, he's a good sell. He's someone who probably you will want to get back because the Penrith Panthers do have a very good run of games from round 19 onwards, but that could potentially be delayed to round 20 if it looks like Cleary may not back up for round 19 post-Origin Game 3. I think going Cleary to Hughes for me is a very, very smart trade. If I was in that position, I'd be doing it. I've already sold Cleary last week for Hines. I already had Hughes, so I've already got Hughes. But I think that's a very, very good trade, as is getting in Eli Katoa. I'm pretty sure the most popular trade is Olukwatu to Eli Katoa. We spoke a lot about the second row forwards on Tuesday. I think he's probably the best second row forward that you can trade in this week. Covers all those buy rounds as we discussed, and his price is good as well, $648K. I'm pretty sure I paid $750 for Eli Katoa way back in about round 6, and even that I thought was a good price. Getting for $650 I think is almost a no-brainer. Very, very good matchup. And even more so where if there's any time where Munster, Grant, etc. do rest for the Storm, Hughes becomes the dominant playmaker, and Eli Katoa just sitting off his right edge, it just means that the attacking opportunities are always going to be there. Very, very consistent. Absolutely no-brainer, I think, trade in. A few people have messaged me saying, should I go anti-pod him? I think he's one that you don't overthink. I think you just go get Eli Katoa if you haven't already. Jack Bostock, we spoke about him as well on Tuesday. I think it really comes down to your trade situation. I'm currently sitting on about 14 trades after making one trade already this week. I'm not going to go there just because I will probably want to trade him again out by round 18. And prior to that big 176, he had a couple of good scores, but there was a lot of scores in the teens, 20s, 30s. And if he puts that out back to back, the amount of cash that he's going to make probably isn't maybe going to make the 2 trades worth it to get him in and out. This week against the Knights as well, it's not even like it's a fantastic matchup because he's going to be coming up against the edge of Dane Gagai and Dom Young. Dane Gagai himself is very, very good defensively, and even the Knights in general, like they only held the Roosters to 12 points last week, and one of those being a very, very controversial try as well. The Knights can't score points, but they also aren't that leaky as well. So I don't think it's a absolutely stellar matchup on paper. For me personally, just because I've got maybe on the lower end of trades, I won't be looking to do the 2 trades to get in and out someone like a Jack Bostock. And the same also applies for a Sifa Talakai. Now, Talakai isn't necessarily someone you necessarily have to trade back out because he's got the dual second row forward center wing, which is pretty handy. Even if Hiroti comes back between 4 to 5 weeks, that probably means that you're going to get maybe Talakai in this left center spot until maybe say round 19. But again, I think if he covered 18, I think it'd be a different story. We'll get onto my team later, but I'm very much looking at getting guys in who cover 18 because I think the way that game 2 is shaped out, we may potentially be losing 1 to 2 of our players for round 18. We'll speak about that. So Talakai doesn't really help for round 18, and I think they're going to want to have him coming off the bench in that middle role. Tom Hazelton's out for what looks like almost to be the rest of the year, at least up until the finals. And I think they're going to need Talakai's impact off the middle, off the bench through the middle, and they'll put Hiroti back at left centre. Because I've seen some people say that, if he kills it, maybe he stays at left centre. I don't think that's going to be the situation. And then he goes back to that player who scores between maybe say 25 to 35 most given weeks coming off the bench, which is fine. You don't have to play him. He's got that dual centre status or with second row forward. So I think if you're happy to trade him in at a cheap price as a downgrade to facilitate funds to free up money for this week or your future trades, if you wanted to get in a Teddy or a Pappy this week, who I do think are pretty much essential now at fullback, then sure, I get it. But if you're looking at it as the trade in, make money, trade out, that's again similar to Bostock. Your trades really are starting to add up in terms of how many you're using on someone like a Talakai. And we know that injuries happen. We've seen it already in the last few rounds, how much carnage there's been in centres. Kolomatangi looks like he's going to be fit and playing this week now, which is very, very good to hear. But he looked like a risk. We had Hopewadi, we had Kale Iro, we had plenty of other injuries happen. All amongst trying to navigate other things as well. So you really need to be careful with burning trades, especially on some of these downgrades. If you're trying to raise money, then also cash in on them later down the track for the rest of the season. Aaron Clark, number 5. On Tuesday, I said that he was probably the second best trade in that second row forward. If you didn't want to go Eli Katoa or if you already had Eli Katoa. I think I still stand by that purely just on output. His minutes have been down, but he's still punching out like 70 to 75 points anyway. His work rate is insane while he's on the park. But again, you just need to keep it to your own team and what's going to work best for you in terms of your coverage, because he won't cover 18. He'll cover 16 and 19, which of course are 2 mini buy rounds, which is useful. But if you're someone who's now thinking, I need more players for 18, he's not going to help for that. And that makes it tricky as well. The same thing goes for someone like a Bo Fermor. Fermor's actually come more and more to my thinking over the last couple of days. Just looking at his numbers again, I'm like, look, he's averaging 72 when he plays in the back row this year. Titans missed round 18, but no other games apart from that for the rest of the year. He's got the dual status, which is handy. You can play him on matchups. You don't have to play him every week, but anytime you call upon him, he's super solid. And it's a good matchup as well against Parramatta this week. So I'd still probably taken Aaron Clark, I think, over a Bo Fermor. I just still think that Aaron Clark is going to, with the Warriors run home, I think equally will punch out about a 70, but I think his ability to get those attacking stats, not necessarily the big tries that Bo Fermor can get, but probably just those kind of, those try assists, line break assists. I just feel like he'll more consistently hit like maybe 80 to 90s. Mixed in with his 70s. I feel like a Bo Fermor is someone who'll go 60, 65 and then get maybe the 100 every now and then. So I think the ceiling is probably a little bit bigger in a Bo Fermor, but I feel like the regularity of those small attacking stats kind of adding up over the weeks, I'd probably lean towards someone like an Aaron Clark, just given the quality of the team he's playing in, and their run home is really, really good as well for the Warriors. James Tedesco at number 6 makes complete sense. he does miss round 17 with the bye, and there's some chit chatter that chit chatter that maybe Teddy's potentially an option to come back for New South Wales in game 3. I don't see that happening. I think they're going to stick strong with Dylan Edwards, so I think Teddy's a very safe option to be trading in for this week. Prime captaincy this candidate as well against the Cowboys at home, coming fresh off a bye. Cowboys are going to have a lot of their origin players backing up, as will the Roosters. But Teddy himself, look, if his other players around him are getting tired, he'll take 1 or 2 runs a set anyway, bounce off a few tackles, and sooner rather than later, he'll be on 110 before you know it. So Teddy, absolutely for me, is probably fullback number 1 alongside with Pappy, I think, in that particular position. Spoke a little bit about Hudson Young. I've got Pappy there at number 9 as well. Absolutely. I think if you were in the position where you could only get one of Teddy or Pappy this week, I would take Pappy. Just, I think, equally good matchup this week, but he also covers round 17, which Teddy doesn't. And then he's got round 18 cover, which so does Teddy. So I think you can probably wait on Teddy. I'm just going to have a quick look. He's got a break even of 92, so it's not like he's going to go up massively in price, even with a good score. And the fact that Teddy misses 17, but Pappy doesn't, yeah, I'd lean towards go get Pappenhausen this week. If you had to get one of those two, in a utopian world, you'd have both of them sitting pretty in your team, which the captaincy and vice captaincy percentages will reflect when we quickly look at that. And Jaden Campbell is the 10th most traded in player. That makes complete sense to me as well. If people are selling Cleary but maybe have the duels to get in someone like a Campbell, again, similar reasons to Fermor, only misses round 18. I do think he's probably 5'8 number 1 or 5'8 number 2 for the run home. If you wanted to go a little bit different, Metcalf I think is also a very good candidate. They've got similar buy coverage, so that doesn't really matter between the two of them. Campbell, I just feel, I think he's about 5 or 6k cheaper than Metcalf now. So in terms of value, I think there's better value in Campbell. But if you like what the Warriors are doing, I think if you're trying to go against maybe what the popular trade-in is of a Jaden Campbell, I'm not sure how far below someone like a Luke Metcalf is. Actually, we can probably quickly check that on the fly in terms of trade-ins for this week. So if you look at this here, yeah, Metcalf he's nowhere near in terms of the top trade-ins for this round. So you've got Jaden Campbell as number 9, but then I can't see Luke Metcalf anywhere. So this is why I think someone like a Metcalf he's 32. Only 105 players have traded him in the top 10% of coaches. So yeah, I really like potentially antipoding a Jaden Campbell or a Munster with a Metcalf who, look, he's got good upside as well, and the Warriors are just absolutely on song at the moment. So that's kind of my thoughts on the top 10 trade-ins. On the trade-outs, most of them make sense. Olakuatu with many trade-outs, as is Cleary. Kolomatangi, so on the update for him, it looks like he's good to go for the Rabbitohs. So apparently he participated in their captain's run this morning, and he's been cleared to play. Now, his output might be a little bit affected because I don't know if he's going to have to play with some kind of a facial protection thing. But look, it's not really something that's going to affect his legs or his ability to fend and make tackle busts and things like that. So even if his minutes and output's a little bit down, Keelan has shown that at full fitness playing through the middle, he's an absolute gun option at second row. He's probably in your top 2 second rowers when he's playing that position with Aneli Katoa. So absolutely, this is the beauty of SuperCoach. You can reverse your trades, and yet you 100% keep Kolomatangi with this update on him. Tamali and Hiroti make sense. So does Gutherson. He's on a bye this week, and if you're upgrading to a Pappy or a Teddy, absolutely I'd be doing that. On Tom Trbojevic, I know a few people are still thinking of holding him. Look, I was a Turbo owner up until this week. There's the chatter that he's going to be playing in the centres round 17 and round 18. I know he's got round 18 cover and he's got the next 2 weeks of good matchups, but just if he's playing in the centres, number 1, his output will be down. I don't think he's going to even play enough games at centre to get the dual status update in round 18. And he's just clearly still not 100% fit. And centre is a gun position. I don't even think Turbo in centre is still someone I'd want to have as one of my 7. Famous last words. But yeah, for me, Turbo, I think if you can free up that big money, if you're going, say, Turbo to Tedesco or Turbo to Pappy this week, and you're funding that with an Olakuatu down to like maybe a Talakai. Like, I don't love Talakai in his own right, but with that combination of trades, I understand it, because I think you absolutely need to be prioritizing getting a Teddy or a Pappy type player who can really hurt you this week, I think, if you don't own. Dillbags, he's also out this week, suspended. He's been very underwhelming, so I get that trade as well. Dillbags to Campbell, Dillbags to Metcalf, I get that. Sanders Smith is still being traded out a little bit. I find this a little bit surprising because he should still be there for the Roosters until about round 18, round 19. But then Sam Walker will be back, and we kind of know now that the preferred combination for the Roosters is Savala and Sam Walker. At that point in time, I think, yep, that's when we move on Sanders Smith. But like this week, for example, I think Sanders Smith is a very good play. He plays the Cowboys at home. He's the goal kicker. So I think there are good points on offer for Sanders Smith. Number 10 is Tino. 699k, 132 break even, 131, sorry. As it currently stands, we don't know if he's going to stay coming off the bench on Sunday. Is he even going to play at all? I'm warming more and more towards a Tino sell. It's just like, I know he's an absolute gun. He's made a lot of money so far on his original starting price. He will start bleeding cash. Look, he could score a try or two. It wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world if he did that against Parramatta. But more likely, if he's coming off the bench, he's got the sternum, issue. I'd guess maybe he plays 35 to 40 minutes and maybe pumps out about 40 to 45 points, which is fine. But he will really start leaking cash at that point. And this is someone who I do think you can maybe look to antipod, just given that he's got this sternum issue. It's really going to affect his output. And he's one of those guys who I think will be very, very highly owned in top-ranked coaches. Not a lot of people will want to sell him because they know that he might be someone they want to keep for the run home. If you've got maybe say 16, 17 trades, then you could say, okay, I'm going to take the chance and sell him. And then post Origin, once maybe his sternum issue has been resolved, you can bring him back potentially. Or honestly, you don't have to. Like, yes, he's an absolute gun, but we spoke about it a lot on Tuesday. There are a lot of good second rows that you can get, or even front row. You don't, like if you've got Tino at front row, you've got Terrell May, you've got Payne Haas, you've got Tarpany, you've got Fanul Blake. You can put an Aaron Clark there. You can put a Kolomatangi up there in round 18 as well when he gets the duel. And then at second row, we've got Eli Katoa, you've got Dylan Lucas, you've got also Kolomatangi, you've got Hudson Young, you've got Angus Crichton, Isaiah Yeo, plenty of guys. So he feels like someone who I think, yes, he's a scary non-own when he's fully fit and healthy, but he's not at this point in time. And I think he's someone that if you couldn't get back to him, you've got enough other good options in his positions where it's not the worst thing in the world if you can't trade back to Tino as well. So at the moment, he's someone who I'm very heavily looking at as a potential sell candidate, just to go a little bit against the crowd, and also just to, not for the sake of going against the crowd, but just looking at him as he's 700k, high break even. Clearly he's playing through injury and he's not 100% fit. And that's going to mean he's going to start leaking cash as well. So I'm getting more and more on board with that Tino trade. But he's someone, look, if he plays and it gets named to start this week, then I think it is going to be very difficult. And he does play the very, very last game of the round as well. So it's going to make it tricky in terms of navigating what you do with Tino this week. I think I'll get onto my team in a second. At the moment, I'm leaning towards, for this week, probably just holding. And then maybe next week is when I maybe make a move. Quickly looking at captaincy and vice captaincy for this week. It's pretty straightforward in my eyes. If you're a Pappy and Teddy owner, I think that's the VC and captaincy combination. I spoke about it a lot on Tuesday as well. Teddy's currently 60% captained by players in the top 10%. In terms of VC, Pappy is 35%. There's a name there that's coming up quite a bit, which is Herbie Farnworth. He's currently the second most VC'd and second most captained. I really don't think it's a great matchup for Herbie individually against Dane Gagai this round. So I would actually be looking at that and think, you know what? Yes, he's an absolute gun and he's just pumped out a massive 150. The Dolphins are on fire, but the Knights are not a weak defensive team. So for me, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward VC Pappy. If you didn't own one of Teddy or Pappenhausen, let's say you own Pappy but not Teddy, I think what I'd be doing is probably VC Terrell May in the first game tonight. He's currently 9% VC'd, and then I'd probably go captain Pappenhausen. If you didn't own Pappy and you own Teddy, then again, similar, I think I would just go VC Terrell May, just see if he crashes over for about 120, and then maybe you take the loot. Otherwise, I think you can play it pretty safe with Captain Tedesco. I think this week feels pretty straightforward for captaincy. It doesn't feel like it's one of those weeks where you should really take on either of those two. They've got the good matchups. They're both high upside fullbacks. I think we stick solid with them. Now, onto my team very, very quickly just to round out this video. So, yeah, not going to talk about captaincy whatsoever. With Munster being more likely to be playing this round, it's kind of changed my trade plans a little bit. I did turbo to Teddy as soon as lockout opened on Monday, and that's not changed one bit. There's not been a second in my mind that I've thought about not doing that trade. So turbo to Teddy, 100% will be happening. I was going to do Munster to Campbell or Metcalf if Munster was ruled out, but the fact that Munster's he looks like he's going to back up and play against the Bunnies, I think it's a really good matchup. And I also like the fact that I think Munster's ownership has also gone down just by virtue that people were selling him, as we were getting into the Origin period. Like if I have a quick look here at not captaincy, but ownership in the top 10% of players, if I just filter for 5'8", Munster's still the highest at 68, but there was a point in time where it was about 85 to 90%. So he has lost some ownership. He's actually losing ownership as it currently stands. That obviously might change once people realize that Munster is probably more likely to be backing up. Really like the matchup against the Bunnies. He'll cover round 17 and he'll miss round 18, and then he probably will miss round 19. But I think the fact that, look, I've got King Tonga as a backup who's obviously not fantastic, but after this round, the Dragons also play every single week. I think I'm just thinking now more and more, I'd like Campbell, I'd like Metcalf, but Munster's completely fine. And ideally, if I don't need to make a trade there, if I can maybe cover round 18, round 19 with King Tonga, or if in the end I get the money to upgrade to Campbell for maybe say round 19, then that might be the option. But the fact that Campbell doesn't play round 18, I think that's what makes me feel comfortable that I can probably just stick with these 2 5'8s for the time being. And that goes for Metcalf as well. There's not really many other 5'8s I'm worried about not having in round 18. And so I think Munster playing does help me out a lot for this week. Payne Haas also looks like he'll be playing, so he's in the squad. I think, obviously it hasn't updated yet in SuperCoach, but with Koloamatangi also looking like he's playing, I think what's meant is that my squad overall is looking stronger for this week. I expect Connor Watson to back up, so he'll be there for hooker. Trome, Tarpany, no problems, and then Payne Haas. In my second row, Koloamatangi looks good. Lucas, Elliot Katoa, that's all fine. I've currently got Tino still there, but I'm not playing him. This is why I'm thinking I don't know if I will be selling Tino this week, just because I don't necessarily have to. I still think the squad is good. My centers are looking good with Herbie, Fletcher Sharp, Lomax, and Asako. So I can cover for all that fine. Even Billy Smith, for example, I'm currently not playing him, but I think the Cowboys have conceded 9 tries to left centers. It could be a good week to still play, a Billy Smith this round. So I wouldn't be concerned at all about playing a Billy Smith. I've got Hughes, I've got Hines, got Munster. And then I think I've got now the best 3 fullbacks that you can currently own in Drinkwater, Pappy, and Tedesco. So I think my reserves are good, even if I just didn't decide to play a Nafahu White. Because the Roosters don't play until Sunday 4 p.m, I'm hoping that by that point in time, we know what it is looking like for Tino, whether he is confirmed to be coming off the bench or if he's maybe got a starting role. If Tino's got a starting role, I'll probably flick the reserve from Nafahu White to a Tino. If Tino's still coming off the bench, the only decision I think I'm going to be making is, do I take maybe Nafahu White's safer 50 to 55, or do I maybe put the reserve on a Sanders Smith? Because I think it's a good matchup for the Roosters and he's the goal kicker. That's the last decision I haven't quite made my mind up on yet. But I think the news of Payne Haas backing up and Koloamatangi looking like he's in this week, I think I'm landing on just doing the one trade this round of Turbo to Teddy. I've got about 252k in the bank. And I could easily do a Tino to an Aaron Clark or a Beau Fermor, but my concern is for round 18. In terms of numbers, I think there is a very, very good chance that either Terrell May or Koloamatangi get picked for New South Wales. I would lean towards it's Koloamatangi. I don't think Stefano is going to be picked there for game 3. And so that means we are going to lose a key number for round 18 that we thought we probably already were going to have. So for round 18, I'll have Sanders Smith, Terrell May, Tarpany, Eli Katoa, Nafahu White, Jerome Hughes, King Tonga, Garrick, Billy Smith, Nathan Lawson, and then my 3 fullbacks. My centres aren't looking very strong. Apart from Garrick, I don't have anyone else covering round 18. And then second row would just be Eli Katoa and Nafahu White if I think that Koloamatangi gets picked for New South Wales. This is why I'm thinking with Tino, I might just give it a week. I might just have to cop, he might lose 60 to 70k, but he'll still be at maybe 620k next round and probably will have a very high break even next week. I would like to see just what happens this week with him. I might make a late decision, but I don't think I'll be doing a trade of Tino to an Aaron Clark or a Beau Fermor. I think I'm leaning towards getting a kick out. So the Bulldogs don't have any more buys after next week. Really liking what I'm seeing from Kikau. He's got that ceiling, and I think his underlying work rate is just improving this year as well. The most important thing is that he covers round 18. And I think I want to, I've spoken about a lot I feel like this bye period is the last chance I can get to really kind of climb the ranks. And while it hasn't happened yet, it's really because you need to get the quality players in for those major bye rounds. And if I feel like I'm going to lose Koloamatangi, or if I'm going to lose the Terrell May, and Aaron Clark or Beau Fermor, they don't help me in that round anyway. And I don't necessarily think I need to trade them in this week because I've got okay depth, I think, with Sanders Smith or Nafahu White if I don't decide to play Tino. So I'm leaning at the moment of Tino to maybe kick out next round, or maybe I do it in round 18. But that's why I don't want to go early and get like an Aaron Clark or a Beau Fermor, because I think I might want to get Kikau next week. He's probably the best second rower at the moment who I think will cover round 18. If I just quickly show you this as well. So if you look at players who cover round 18, and if you look at second rowers by average, Eli Katoa's fine, already have him. Hudson Young won't be there because of Origin. Viliama Kikau is the next best, along with Jacob Preston. Then you've got other names like Koloamatangi, who either plays for us who we already have, or he goes off to New South Wales. Carrigan won't be there. Olukwatu's injured. Manny Nicholson's injured. Connor Watson will be there for Origin. Angus Crichton will be there for Origin. Then there's a Toby Couchman, but that's a 10-point drop off in average. That's really why I'm looking at Kikau as I think the guy I want in the second row for round 18. So that's my updated thoughts on my team. Trades for next round. I think Kiraz is obviously going to be a very, very popular trade in next week for round 17, which makes complete sense. Me personally, when I bought in Isako, I looked at it as going Isako to Kiraz. I have a feeling that I won't be getting Kiraz in round 17. I think it might be a round 18 trade for me. It'll probably be Isako to him in round 18. That's not going to be great because, Kiraz is a gun, and definitely I'd prefer him to Isako. But if Isako can get close to him over the next couple of rounds, look, Isako's got the Rabbitohs next week. It's a good matchup. Then I think I'm happy to wait until maybe round 18. It also maybe just gives me that surety that Kiraz will not play Origin. It's very clear that he's next in line. He got called into the Blues camp when To'o had a bit of a doubt. So it also just safeguards from that as well. So I think the next couple of rounds are just going to be slowly bringing in a couple of extra round 18 guys. It's Kiraz and Kikau, I think, are going to be the two main ones from the Doggies. And then after that, it will be kind of just trying to set up the team for the run home. But yeah, good luck this week. Definitely just pay attention to your team list and the rolling lockouts for this round. It's going to be very, very critical. But thank you all for tuning in. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Please do give it a like if you did. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers.